本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It's Monday, April 20th. Happy 420. You are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 308. I'm your host, Austin Walker. I'm joined by Rob Zachney.
I'm just trying to look up whether or not Kenan Thompson was the one who cussed out Jimmy Fallon for fucking up his sketches.
Oh,
somebody on OG
I
SNL was like, "Don't
that.
do that shit to me," and I think it was Thompson.
I hope it is. Shout out to Kenan Thompson,
Wait, is OG
all-star
SNL
player.
all that?
Oh, the greatest of all time. Like,
I love Kenan Thompson.
What a career. Gita Jackson here with us, obviously.
Hi, I'm also here. I'm Gita. I was not looking up anything related to Kenan Thompson in the time that
That's
was
fine.
taking place.
That was not required.
Okay,
Especially
good.
given,
I'm so glad.
yeah, that was not we didn't need. That was not your ticket of admission. One Kenan Thompson fact, please. And Ricardo Contreras, what's up? What's up, Ricardo?
Happy Gamer Christmas.
Is that a 420 joke? What's
I think
happening?
So.
I think so.
Okay, I was like, oh,
is this anything?
This is it.
I thought
it's the
there was
gamer
gonna
number,
be-
right? That's what
thought-
that is.
Yeah, the Gamer Christmas. Yeah, totally. I always thought of Gamer Christmas as being Christmas, but
Yeah, no, this
No,
is actually when we
it's-
appoint a new gamer pope.
Right.
there we go. Yes, right. White smoke, black
smoke.
smoke. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Who is the gamer pope for 2020? Is it a yearly thing? Is that what it is? You get to be a pope for
Yeah.
a year?
Yeah.
Is this the
Gamer
same
that
or
would solve a
different?
lot of the
attention
problems
spans,
with the papacy.
You know?
Yeah. Is this the same as the influencer of the year? Or is it a different subcategory of gamer?
Oh no. Ooh,
Oh no, as in
the trending gamer award does have a pope-like history of like, well, we got that one wrong.
yeah.
It's another Borgia.
I'm googling gamer pope, and I shouldn't have googled gamer pope.
You shouldn't
Yeah,
have done
wait,
that.
there's
Well, you
only
got the
one
key
thing
link
that's
in
going to
there.
come out, right? Like,
Well, there's a couple images here. Let's see.
Really?
Here's one. Here is the Pope
I
lifting up a
assumed-
Minecraft diamond.
oh,
I appreciate
wow.
that one. He's blessing it, obviously. Here's one.
Why does this image
with
exist?
Here's one with the Pope wielding a cross made of Wiimotes with a T-shirt on underneath his vestments, saying "Gamers don't die, they respawn." That one's good. Here's one with the Pope carrying a copy of Call of Duty Modern Warfare for the Xbox.
Why are there so many
360
of
or the
these?
Wii. The Wii. This is a recur. I don't know. Listen, here's one that
Specifically
says.
of this Pope.
Here's one that says Sans Undertale visits the Pope.
Oh my god.
It's a fucking
So there's a
game
news
theory.
link.
Gamers shouldn't have any rights.
What's the news link? Oh, Pope Simulator.
2 days ago.
Andy Chalk,
Really?
what are you serving up for us today, Andy?
Oh man, put on that habit. Is it called a habit? I think it's called a habit.
It's
Vestments?
called a habit.
Vestments.
Vestments. I don't know what the hat is called though. What's the papal hat?
Oh, that's
Oh.
the
I
Lighter.
wrote papal cat. I typed in papal cat instead of
Oh,
papal
please
hat.
tell me there was something there.
I didn't hit enter. I'll go back.
Oh.
Papal Cat. The Pope's Cat is a book available on the internet. Written. I'm not going to co-sign it, but here we go.
Huh.
Now we're talking about the good shit. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the previous Pope who I didn't have any fondness for. Not that I'm like standing the current Pope, but
Yeah.
there's a cat. There you go. There's a cat on the lap of a Pope. Here's a cat on a Pope desk.
We really went off the rails immediately.
Photoshop?
today.
No, this is good. No, these are all real. This is all. Don't worry about it. Don't worry
This
about
looks
it. Here's
photoshopped.
they're all real, Kato. This was also real. That's a cat
This
wearing a
looks
slipper
photoshopped.
like it's a Pope's hat, and the Pope's hat, by the
Did
way,
they
is
have to
traditionally
Photoshop
called.
pictures into the fucking Pope's vicinity
Yeah, what's
because
up?
cats wouldn't get close to him or something? What is happening?
I don't know. What do you talk? What? Yeah, it's
Austin,
fine. What's up?
are you all right, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking at these animal pictures. They're all dressed like the Pope. It's wild.
That sounds crazy, dude.
The
That
small
really does.
one, the small hat is called a zucchetto or a zucchetto, maybe. I think it's a hard K sound. It's 2 C's and then an H. That to me reads like a zucchetto, which is
Like
the little
zucchini.
skull cap, like a zucchini. Yeah, and then the bigger one is a mitre. That's the classic tall, big crown situation, which I think you said, Rob, and I cut you off.
Yeah.
I apologize. You knew your miters. You knew your miters from your meters, as they say.
They do say that, yeah.
They're literally the same
Hey,
name
Gita,
as the
why are you?
tool.
What's up? Why are you not at the computer you're normally at? You seem to be in a bed.
Yeah, man. At my desk currently is a computer that don't fucking work. It's busted.
What? So is this what happened last time? Is that what happened?
This is
the
a fucking saga.
Okay.
So a while ago, my monitor just started flickering in and out, and I assumed it was a weird connection with the HDMI port because that's usually what happens, you know?
Right.
It's usually cables. And I
Yeah.
just jiggled it and it stopped doing it for several months. For several months it
Yeah,
stopped
no.
doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And then, like, as soon as I was required to start podcasting from home, my computer started, like, exploding every time I turned the camera on. And it would be okay for a while, but then it would just crash, just like hard crash, hard boot. Just, I had no idea what was going wrong. I assumed that was the camera because it was related every single time I used the camera, specifically with Discord. It would just be like, sorry, like, I'm done. Like,
Mm-hmm.
peace. And then this really made Kato's job a lot harder, and I'm really sorry about that. But, you know, I didn't assume it was anything worse than something wrong with the drivers for my camera or the HDMI port for my monitor. I was like, well, man, it sucks that I'm having 2 different unrelated problems at the same time. And then I was playing games on Friday, and, like, The Sims, every time I played The Sims, after, like, an hour or so, it would just crash. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, weird. Maybe I'll try a different game. And then I was playing Civ, and then it started crashing while I was playing Civ. And after a while, I was like, maybe I'll just not touch it until tomorrow. And then the next day, it just stopped turning on. And you know what it is the
God.
fucking GPU.
Which is a
It's the
bigger
GPU.
component.
Yeah, it costs like mad money.
It does cost like mad money. You're not wrong.
I got Trump bucks, so it's not like I'm gonna have difficulty
I was gonna
replacing
say
my
that's-
GPU.
Can we not call them Trump bucks?
Yeah,
Can we find a better solution? Can we call them like not enough bucks? Can we call them
I would
anything?
gladly call it not enough bucks, because I need more money now.
Yeah. Please, can we call
Not
them
enough
payment
bucks.
number 1? Where's the rest?
Did you get your COVID pittance?
There we go. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
My COVID
God.
is
Sir, like some more.
amazing. Yeah.
God. Well, I'm glad that we have a solution for now to keep you on the podcast. I hope your GPU situation is addressed.
Solution
This is a
I
bad
wanna
time for it.
Give full props to Jason Keebler. We have no idea how to say your last name.
Still not.
Or-
Yeah.
You are my boss, and I'm sorry, but you biked to the office and got my work laptop from the office for me. It was amazing. It was also amazing to see someone that I'm not a roommate of, and he's not my
Right.
boyfriend. That was really cool.
A human
Other
people. Contact. It's out there.
Yeah.
It's real.
It took me a second
True.
to like remember what to do when you see another person.
Right.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I was like reaching out for the laptop and you saying hello to me, and I was like, oh, yes, I have to also say hello.
Right.
That-
We have to have. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is dropping off masks today for my roommate and I. I have some other masks, but like a one more in the mix is not a bad idea. And she was
Yeah.
making some anyway, and I'm like, all right, pregame hanging, like not even a hangout. It's not even a hangout. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
thanks, bye. But I haven't
Yeah.
seen anyone who is not my roommate like you in
Yeah.
weeks and weeks and weeks. So
Yeah,
it's gonna
I
sound
mean,
like a normal person. That's
I
all.
love my roommates. They honestly keep me mostly sane. We've had a very good rapport, and we like bake each other cookies all the time, which is really nice.
That is nice.
It really, honestly, it absolutely rules. Since I got the standing mixer, it's made that whole process a lot easier too. So that's pretty dope. I'm gonna make some cookies today.
Nice.
And but you know, after a while, you're like, I remember that there were other people in the world, right?
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I'm just unsure right now of their existence. I can't confirm or deny.
They're out there, I believe. I can
Yeah.
see them from my window. Like,
Listen,
the
I
way
want
you
to
look out
believe.
the window in Silent Hill for the room and like, oh, wow, look, there's a whole world out there. I'm
Yeah.
trapped in here with the monsters.
Yup.
But the world out there continues unabated.
Oh, man. It's wild, man. I don't want to talk about bad takes on Twitter today, so I will just
It's fine.
move
We're going to
on
keep
from
on
that
moving.
thought.
I've seen there's
Keep
too
on
many.
trucking.
There are
There's
too many bad takes out there.
Many.
We're going to keep moving.
I need to, like, allow my brain to have peace. You
Right.
know? Like, I
Well-
need to not think about dumb shit other people say right now. I, like, let it get to me last week.
It's not good.
It's not
we
good.
could open this. We could open this. Listen, I got open DMs, and that means people decide to send me shit all the time. Just
Oh, yeah.
bad takes right into my brain.
Just gourmet for
people
you.
make bad ideas.
Wow.
People have bad ideas, and they decide to just send me essays. So we could go down this road. We are not going to go down this road.
People ask my opinions about things, and I'm like, I don't know why you think I would tell you. That's so weird. Ella wants to be on the podcast now. Hello.
Hi, Ella. Hi. There's a cat on the screen right now. I love this.
Baby.
This is
We got
amazing.
We got. Can we make this a part of the podcast? Just in general. Could you
Someone
make that cat
screenshot this, please.
the
and just,
Pope, please?
Please make that cat the Pope.
Please
Like,
make this
Ella's
cat.
definitely already the Pope. Oh my god, I think she might just be sitting down next to me, which would be amazing.
That's ideal.
Oh my god,
Um,
she is. Look at that tail.
Incredible. Do you know
I
who could
love
bring me
this.
peace and hopefully good takes in this time?
Who?
Rob Zachney.
Oh,
Rob
I love
Zachney,
him.
who I believe has been playing a game that we can now talk about to some degree. I don't know. You have the embargo details and what slides here and what doesn't.
Yeah, it's-
to
well,
talk
it's-
about Gears Tactics, not Gears of
Yeah.
War Tactics, just Gears Tactics, just like Gears 4 was Gears 4, Gears 5, or whatever.
Yeah, it's they appear to be, maybe of war now it's too long winded, really.
I see. It's not the
just-
content. It's the it just doesn't flow as good as Gears Tactics.
Yeah. So the embargo is a little bit wishy-washy because they unveiled some stuff publicly, and so like some of the opening missions have already been visible. But I've been playing around with Gears Tactics a bit. It's kind of what you might imagine. It's XCOM meets Gears of War, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it, right? Like, Gears has always been a game of positioning in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. Like, really what you do in Gears of War is you find a good field of fire, you pick enemies off from there, they start to circle around, you redeploy and mow them down to the next position. That's Gears of War. That's also basically the XCOM model of tactics games, right?
Right.
It's
In some
all-
ways, the modern series of XCOM owes something to the popularity of Gears of War, or Gears of War popularizing an understanding of cover as a model for combat and opening up that tactical possibility space for a lot of players who otherwise would not have been interested in something like an XCOM.
Yeah, I mean, even the XCOM uniforms kind of owe a lot to the Gears of War uniforms, but it does have a few departures from what we've sort of come to view as like genre standards post New for Axis XCOM. One of the big one is that this is not a 2-action tactics game, and shooting does not end a turn. You get 3 actions per turn, and all 3 of them can be shoot. Like, you can just blaze away in this game. The other thing it gets away from is it's not a chessboard configuration of the map. Like, they are discrete points on coordinates. But because cover is such a huge part of this, in essence, you are still basically bouncing from cover to cover, right? You're not going to be out in open ground. You're not going to use the granularity of that system probably as much as you might think. You're still going to be popping guys from one cover point to the next. But for all of that, these all sound like small changes. This is the weird thing of describing this game. It all sounds kind of minor, right? It all sounds like, Gears Tactics is, of course, that's just going to be what if XCOM, but Gears. I am surprised so far at how much the tweaks to the rule set really do change up the dynamics of combat. And I think one of the ways they've done this is they really are leaning into some of the core elements of Gears of War, right? A lot of like your squad is supposed to be a squad of complete badasses. So even though they get 3 actions, there's a lot of complementary powers that they can use, and there's a lot of ways they can exchange actions. But crucially, every time they perform an execution, which we all remember downing an enemy in Gears of War and then chainsawing them in half or stomping them in the face. Every time you do that in this game, everybody but the character who performs the execution gets an extra action. And so
you're so fucking hyped that you fucking cut off someone's head with the bayonet of your old school Lancer or whatever. And they're like, I'm charged up. I gotta go do that.
Dude,
I'm gonna cut off someone's head.
It is just like, how do I get all these guys to share like collaborative roid rage?
That is 100% the game, yes.
Amazing.
And-
It's pain and gain.
Yeah. Is that movie
it's
good?
just pain and gain. I have opinions about Michael Bay that
It seems
will
like
take
it
a long
might be a
time to
film.
explain. So let's just
All
move on. Yeah,
We'll
let's
table
go
that for
ahead.
begin and rewatch it. Pain and gain. But yeah, so like I'm actually surprised by how much fun Gears of Tactics
got. GOT, right. Now that's freed up.
But so like I am surprised by how much I'm actually enjoying these changes to the formula. I'm surprised by how much Gears Tactics so far feels like Gears of War, but also makes a lot of the Gears of War stuff pretty satisfying in a tactics game. I enjoy playing that chaining combos together thing. I do wonder how that will wear over the course of an entire game, but I don't know. Like early impressions from like the first few levels are, when you begin figuring out the system, it's pretty cool. But you've been playing a little bit. What do you make?
Yeah, so I've like 4 or 5 hours into it, and I think we can only talk mechanics. We can't talk about story stuff or blah 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 blah. The stuff that
we can discuss the premise.
Okay, which is it's Gears of War, and there's the soldier. He doesn't want to be a soldier anymore. Well, yeah, it is. It takes place during Gears 1. It seems right.
No, it's 10 years before.
Oh,
so like
it's
so
okay.
This is years before Gears of War 1. Right, like it's the early days after Emergence Day.
Okay,
and
I forgot.
I
forgot the timeline there.
Yeah.
I apologize.
The short version is they're trying to figure out what are we going to do with all these locusts, and they've just figured out we'll just burn the planet to a cinder.
Right.
That's the opening of the game. Basically, is
Right.
you get a mission on the eve of the massive like Hammer of Dawn strikes. But yeah, you play sort of the classic Rambo type figure where you're an ex cog officer who is sort of in internal exile. He's decided he's going to hide out at the motor pool. He used to be Rambo, and now he's just off repairing.
Now he's got a wrench,
something.
and that's yeah, exactly.
But now the cause needs him.
There's so you're this dude, and I'll say like the positive stuff that I am in line with you with. Most importantly is that rolling abilities thing. Like there was a sequence where actually to build to the sequence, we should hit the other thing that feels distinct, or it doesn't feel distinct from XCOM. Because it's not that XCOM doesn't have enemies that swarm, especially when you think about War of the Chosen in XCOM 2 and having the zombies that did this action. But there's a lot of there's a real reliance on particular types of Overwatch in this game, where the way Overwatch works in this game is that you don't just hit a button and then you hit something within your kind of 180-degree field of view. You in fact create a cone from your character's position on the map that they cover. And so it's a lot of covering choke points, but it's also a lot of building overlapping, but not too overlapping cones of Overwatch, because they will absolutely waste shots firing them at the same person. When all you need is to stagger someone so they don't rush you, for instance, you don't necessarily want to put 2 people to shoot that same person, but you don't get to choose that. You've basically just choosing shoot whatever moves into this space first. And so sometimes you'll stagger it in terms of length so that like, all right, you shoot the people as they first move into this general area, and I'll shoot anyone who gets past you.
Well, and I think that also impacts to hit chance too. So you want to be like setting good.
Does it say that ever? I wish it said that ever. Like, this is my biggest problem with this game, is there is a lot of stuff that's important that it doesn't fucking say. There's friendly fire in this game for Overwatch, and I think for non-Overwatch too. It didn't tell me that.
For sure, for non-Overwatch.
Okay, see, I haven't seen it in non-Overwatch because I just haven't lined my people up that way. But more than once, this is the thing that actually bugged me, was in non-Overwatch, I was able to take risky shots past someone's shoulder and hit someone behind them. And here, with Overwatch on, suddenly my dude was just like, I'm going to fill my friend with lead over and over again because I have 4 actions left. I'm just going to keep this trigger held down until I kill my friend. I'm not going to realize at any point, because the way the Overwatch shots work in this is you fire however many actions you have left, which I like a lot. The idea of like, if you can stop in a location and set up shop and you have all of your actions left, or more than, again, this is one of the reasons why it's important you start with 3 actions and can gain more, is you can have a round where you have someone pumping actions into someone with a heavy machine gun who's holding down a key choke point. And then they're in Overwatch, and that Overwatch is just like, all right, I'm going to fire this gun 5 times as someone comes through until I'm out of ammo. The whole thing, just to be clear, the stuff that I'm getting at here is stuff that I like conceptually. I wish there was a little bit more signposting on it. And so ideas that, like you just said, Rob, the fact that Overwatch has harder chances to hit at further distances might be true. I actually haven't seen that. I haven't seen anything not only say it, but I actually haven't seen that in play through 3 or 4 hours of play. It feels to me, in fact, like my soldiers are way more accurate in Overwatch than they are in actual making them shoot stuff. Yeah. And I suspect that has to do with accurate ranges, like maybe you only Overwatch out into the point that you're mostly accurate. I don't know, but I do wish it signposted that a little bit more clearly. I'm sure this game is going to come out in a week or 2 or whenever it comes out, and everyone's going to immediately dig through the code or just like test it until within 3 weeks, we will know the truth of the way Overwatch works in this game. But I wish the game had told me that directly instead. But the situations that end up coming up that I do really like are what you said around the rolling abilities. And so I had one situation where, because of the focus on Overwatch, there's a lot of take a position, hold a position missions. There's a lot of like charge in, kill the enemies you see there, set up shop, defend it for X turns while soldiers stream or Locust, which are the kind of underground bug aliens that you fight in these series, charge towards you. And it was like nail biting because of how quickly you could become overwhelmed if you don't stay up on the enemies. The part at which I'm at in the game, which is very early on, I have like 3, I want to say, main enemy types. There's kind of like a rifleman Locust. There's like little like melee Locusts that charge. I guess there's 4. There's grenadiers, which I have shotguns, and also
one
grenades.
of the many mystifying things about.
I don't know that they used grenades on me ever, but they have. They're called grenadiers. And there's berserkers or something like that. The ones who like get mad. Maybe those are the grenadiers too.
Those are the grenadiers.
The grenadiers.
So the grenadiers.
Okay.
Okay. So the thing about the grenadier is, they get an attack of opportunity if anyone like moves into range on them, unless they've gone berserk. At which point they lose that because they're just so hulked out that you can just like roll up and
which is the thing that ended up happening in the situation where I managed very, very badly to like spread my team out. And get into a situation where the only person close to anything was the shotgunner, who I don't think is very good. It's like there are hero characters, and there are like, what are the regular soldiers called? Do you remember? They're
recruits.
Recruits, let's say. Yeah, they're like proc gen soldiers versus the story characters. And I try to spread the love around and get XP around to everybody, or at least as best as I can. And so I had the shotgunner in, and she had just not gotten any abilities that made her any good yet, but she was the one closest to like 3 of these other enemies. Meanwhile, the other half of my crew was surrounded by these smaller enemies. And what I ended up being able to do was that incredible maneuvering of My main dude had a move called Empower, which just gives someone another action point. I could use that to give someone an execution to finish off a soldier or an enemy that like had been wounded but not killed. You're like was in the kind of down but not out stage. That then pumped everybody with more points, and then like rotating that over and over again until I managed to like go from my lead dude has been down and not out twice already. 2 of my other people have been down but not out twice, like or once. Like it was not a good fight. And then suddenly I found this rhythm, and the whole fight kind of changed. And we were able to kind of rotate around the map, to use, like competitive gaming terms. And we literally were able to slide our position such that we could pivot where we were on the kind of axis of combat to get into more defensive positions, and then had enough points left to slide into Overwatch and like hold this courtyard for one more turn, at which point we had an action refresh and could like push back all the way. And that stuff works super, super, super well. The stuff that I'm struggling with, how do you feel about the reward boxes? There are like boxes across the map that you can get that are random things. There are side objectives, and then and the reward for both of those things, and just for finishing missions, is a loot crate. It is just like, there's something in here.
Gear for war.
Gear. Yeah, war gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like the thing the special crates add. Like, there's some missions where they're clearly baiting you out into places, like, especially if some missions are on a timer. There's places where that stuff, I think, does add a bit of what the, what was that XCOM expansion where they introduced a similar thing? All those timed...
was XCOM Enemy Within. Yeah.
It adds some of that, right? Where you are now playing a slightly riskier game to go and get these things when you didn't necessarily have the actions to burn to go and do that. I like that part of it, but I do think the fact the reward points back towards a gear system that is a little fussy, right? Like I think for a game like this, a lot of times the reward is the tactical layer.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily here to get super into speccing out my crew.
7 different units, each of whom has a head slot, a chest slot, a leg slot, 2 weapons. The weapons are choosable. The main weapon has a stock, a barrel, a scope, and a receiver or something like that, or a grip or something. And then there's also a grenade choice. There's a lot of fiddly stuff in the strategic layer, so to speak.
Yeah. Now sometimes though, you can get pretty sick like specs from the gear.
You get a rare drop that gives you 10% bonus damage or whatever.
I hate this stuff. It's boring to fiddle with, except for I got this one thing that like makes your grenades explode more, and then another thing that reduces the cooldown, and like suddenly I got this guy who's like, that's the real grenadier in this game. And so I don't know. I'm like,
excuse me, Rob, can you explain how grenades explode more?
Thank you.
I was curious about that.
I mean, you put more of the juice in them.
Okay.
So there's grenade juice.
It's like explosion respecting juice.
Yeah.
Drink it
I'm sure the war movie version is just like, the wild man in the platoon or something, just opening up grenades and like pouring like homemade black powder into them and being like,
he active reloaded that grenade.
Yeah. Oh god, there's active reload.
There is active reload.
I was gonna ask.
It's a passive ability, isn't it? That you can give someone that's just like is it the first shot after the first set of shots after you reload is just better, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of
you don't actually have to actively do it.
No, I'm glad you don't, but also.
Yeah. And then there's like characters can sort of spec out in any of 4 directions. So they can like, even though they play the different archetypes, they can evolve really, really differently within the same class.
You can have a support character who is basically a medic. You can have a support character who's basically a commander focusing on giving people more actions. There's some overlap. Yeah. You'll probably dip into all 4 corners of that like skill tree, but you could really specialize, and those high-end abilities are really good.
So like, I'm at the start pretty much. Like I can talk a lot more about this when I played more and when the review embargo goes up. But like I think like first glance for me, I'm really interested in playing more. Like I came to this and I was kind of in the mood for a good tactics game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was kinetic enough to catch my attention, right? I do kind of like the fact that sometimes tactics games can feel a little bit too chess problem-y, let us say. Not to foreshadow anything, but
I spent a year watching videos about chess. Not to foreshadow anything,
but they can be a little
Well, no, that's actually my problem with this game too. To some degree, is this game has levels and it feels like there's solutions. This is also my problem with Radio General, a game that we'll talk about maybe a little bit very briefly later, or I'll just do it right now. Radio General's out. Let's get it out the way. Radio General is a game that is, the premise is something I really like. It has the exact same issue that I have with some levels here, which is that's a game in which you're a World War II commander calling in orders over the radio to your not your platoons, not your battalions. What's a company? To your companies. It's 4 companies to a battalion, Rob, is that right? That sounds right.
8, but
okay. And so you're calling them into these companies, and they're making maneuvers on a map. And one thing that's interesting about that game is you have to move your little figures on the map based on where they've reported in. You don't have like a map that updates itself. You have to update your map. And also you have to give them, you don't have like a particular understanding of like what their HP is or what their, defensive score is in certain points in the territory. So it's like, hey, I know that they're in a better position because they're in elevation. They're on the map where it's elevated. I hope that map is right. And I think that means that they'll win this fight, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And also the thing that's cool about that game is just getting 6 updates from all of your units at a time. And it's like, Charlie Squad, I need you to calm the fuck down. I need to tell this other person to shell this town right now. I don't care that you found some goats on the road. I don't care. I do not care about it. Deal with the goats. I'm dealing with Nazis. And that stuff is good, but those levels are levels. There feels like there is a baked in solution in a way that is, not even chess problem-y so much as like, because a chess problem is a different thing than a video game level, right? A chess problem.
I just like the shooties, by the way.
Oh, I know what you mean. I get you. Which is actually part of the problem with me and Gears Tactics. But I do want to differentiate between a chess problem and a level with a solution. And I think the chess problem, the thing that's fun about it is you tend to solve a chess problem in a move or two. And you're like, aha, I see. This is it. If I arrange things just so, this will fall out in such a way that I will succeed in a matter of moments. Just a few loose moves. The longer that kind of idealized string of successes looks, the more boring and rote it feels, because it's not, I've made a good decision. I played to the script. Radio General has that problem in a big way, or at least to the first 4 or 5 hours, like the first campaign and a little bit after that. The Gears that I've played, again, only a few hours, has it in a less big way. It's mostly that it feels like a Gears of War game, which to its credit, that's probably what it wants to do, is feel like a Gears of War game. I just don't know that I want that as much as you do, which is a fine difference to have with my friend Rob Zachney. Also, I'm just not the Gears. Like, I really love playing Gears in college with my friends. That was a good time. But like, I don't have any fondness for the designs, for the locusts, for the execution stuff. All of my love of this stuff is mechanical. None of it is in my heart.
Wow.
Which tells me, given my response to this game, if you have it in your heart, you'll probably respond well to it. If you're like, yeah, motherfucker, these guns have chainsaws on them. Let me tell you about the guns in these games. They got chainsaws on them. I actually think they did the shotgun dirty. That's my actual thing is, I think that the shotgun in this game is weak as shit. And that does not compare to real Gears of War shotguns, which are the bane of your existence or your holy grail, depending. Anyway, we can talk more about tactics next week.
They're finicky. Yeah, we'll get more into it. I'm curious, especially because apparently, like, later in this game, there's boss battles.
I was going to ask if there were boss battles, because that's the thing that I feel like is not missing, but is like part of the Gears milieu.
I know, but that's the part that terrifies me.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like, I talked to one of the designers the other day. I'm probably going to be running an interview with them later this week. But like, I brought up the boss battles in tactics games can be kind of iffy. And he was like, yeah, they can. It's like we were like, they knew going in that boss battles would be a tricky thing to do. And their response was basically to like, they kind of viewed boss battles as kind of quintessentially Gears, but then they also needed to figure out a way to make it not bring the tactics game to a screeching halt.
Right.
So I'm curious to see how they scored on that. Because it's not just that the boss battle has to work once, right? Like, if you're going to replay this game on a higher difficulty or something like that, you can't have that thing. And I think even more of The Chosen, like, though I like it, replaying it, there's some of these missions that you have to go through. I'm just like, I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to walk up to the thing and trigger what's her face appearing and having all my guys get fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, this is a larger conversation around tactics and strategy games, which is like, to what degree are we? This is the thing with Gears. Gears is a single player shooter. Traditionally with a different multiplayer mode. I mean, you play co-op, but like my guess is most people are playing the campaign once and then switching into multiplayer for their iterative play, for their like ongoing, hey, I'm just going to hang out with some friends and do that. A lot of tactics and strategy game players will return to the same game multiple times, do a full playthrough, and that is a different experience. And what they want is a sandbox or a tool set or a play kit to have that iteration happen naturally through the adjustment of what do you call it? Not just options, but just like, hey, I want there to be more enemies per fight this time. I want there to be just like a different feel for the game based on just a few options. And I don't see that in Gears Tactics. It feels like Gears Tactics is aiming for the person who likes Gears of War and XCOM and wants to play through a campaign once and then be done with it. Whereas like the XCOM community are people like you who've played through these campaigns multiple times and have wanted to have a good time multiple times. And if they don't have that at the base game, mods come in, they tinker even more with some variables, etc. And so, yeah, it's interesting to see that. And again, we'll talk about this in the near future. Again, I suspect. Let's take a break. When we come back, Gita, I know we'll stay on the strategy tip for a second. I know you got some Civ to talk about, and then some other stuff, and then we'll filter over to some other stuff too. So BRB. We're back. Gita, do you want to talk to me about the sixth? This is the sixth civilization.
Are we back now?
There have only been 6 civilizations in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the 6th one, and we're in it. And this is the conspiracy theory that I believe. This is the conspiracy theory of 6 civilizations, brother.
Oh my God.
God, imagine.
Outside the Roosevelt L train stop in downtown Chicago.
Yes, exactly. 100%.
Talking to me about how, Scottish are also Israelites.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Fucking...
There's 6
I'm building a school.
The Earth has only been
building a school. I need donations to build. I'm trying to uplift my young brothers. We are going to create the 7th generation, the 7th civilization. I could be a con artist so easy. It's right there. If this falls apart,
I know.
You don't even know. You don't even know the degree to which I could slip into
lie.
Listen.
It's so easy to take money from people.
It is. I'm not going to do it.
It is, but you shouldn't do it because it's mean and bad.
It's true.
Anyway, that's not at all what I was talking about. Civilization Civ 6. It's a game I have not thought about since I bought it, basically. I bought it, and I was like, all right, and then I moved on. But then I was like, I have my COVID pittance, and I'd like to buy some video games. You know what I haven't bought? Is any of the Civ DLC. I did actually buy one of them, I realized, and I guess it didn't make a huge difference to me. That DLC, that's the most recent one, Gathering Storm, that is, like, it feels like the second half of the game in a lot of ways, you know? I was really, really impressed and surprised. And it also allowed me to, like, finally roleplay in a specific way that I wanted to roleplay before, which is to have, get a religious victory. And have my religion that I invent be the dominant religion across all the continents, leading to my win. which is something I've always wanted to do in Civ. I usually, the path to science victory is very clear. Cultural victories are also super easy. Like if you just amass enough resources and have a big enough army, you can do like a war victory, not too difficult. But religious victory is just something I've never pulled off. And there's something fascinating about the way that the game illustrates how culture from different places filters through like artificially constructed borders, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved watching, seeing my religion. I created a religion that's just based on like river worship, and it didn't map to anything.
I was gonna ask if what the Gita religion is. What was it? So wait, what are the how does religion work in Civ 6?
Okay, so religion works after a certain, you can accrue faith, and after a certain amount of time, you're able to buy a pantheon, and that is like the first step of your religion. And then once you create, obtain enough faith to get a great prophet, you are able to found a religion, like have it become an actual religion with texts and places of worship and all that. And then from there, you can, your religion will spread through trade routes, through proximity to other places, that kind of thing. And religious pressure, once your religion is a dominant religion in a particular place, that sort of will filter out to other cities and towns that are nearby, especially if you're trading with them. So you sort of just have to make sure that your religion does not butt up against any other religion that has aggressive, has also aggressively taken root in a particular area. You can speed up this process with theological warfare. So you can buy units with faith. You can buy missionaries, apostles, gurus. I got some warrior monks one time. I don't know.
Just in case, listen. They put in work.
You might need them. Yeah, they did actually help me win something, so that was good. I got in a minor war. It was no big deal, though. I kicked their ass, and I took one of their cities. It was fine.
Civilization.
It was great. They declared war on me. I was
I'm saying... yeah, no, that's the game. That's the game.
Yeah, right? I needed to teach them. So I was also engaged with theological warfare with that country civilization also. So after the war ended, we didn't stop fighting because I had to keep buying and sending out missionaries and apostles to do like sort of religious culture bombs, basically, in different cities. That's where they would go, and they would proselytize to the people.
So is that a situation where you have like units on the board that are, like you said, apostle or whatever guru, and you're moving them across the board as if they're military units, but they're allowed to have access. Someone can't just be like, I'm gonna kill that motherfucker.
No, if you run into another religious unit, you can have basically you both talk until one of them dies, essentially. Like.
Right.
One ideology defeats the other, and then that unit is like disappears, essentially, and that makes the influence of that religion in that region go down significantly, and the influence of yours go up significantly. So basically, you debate until somebody dies.
You have to debate.
God.
Oh my God.
So does this go well for you? Is this how did wait, we didn't get the details really of what is the Gita Jackson religion? So
I just pressed play now, so I ended up playing as Georgia, which is actually a really fascinating civilization to play as. Specifically, I went down the religious route because they had a specific building that a religious building that would like help you generate a lot of faith, and I figured that would be just like in line with what the game is telling me that the civilization is good at. So
sure, yeah.
So I ended up just founding in a riverbed in a floodplain, which ended up being useful for me in the long term also, because even though it flooded a lot, once we got the World Congress, I was able to ask for aid from other countries a lot of times and accrue a lot of influence that way, which was great. These flooding and natural disasters is something that Gathering Storm introduced. And There's
Right.
something about
This is the expansion that specifically has a lot of a lot of like not just natural disasters, but like climate-y stuff, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so over time it's like a very slow build, but you'll begin sort of having natural disasters occur and having to, spend time in production repairing different places when they're affected, but also, after a flood, if you build a farm right next to the floodplain,
Right.
you'll get extra food, that kind of thing. And then as the game goes on, like reflective of how much each nation has sort of developed into the industrial age, circumstances will change. But we haven't really gotten that far into the industrial age thus far, so didn't get to see a lot of the interesting stuff. I've heard from Luke Plunkett at Kotaku that like once you get into the time where it's clear that the Earth is warming, it just becomes very, very stressful
I
managing
bet.
CO2 levels. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. But yeah, so I found it on a river, and I was like, okay, if I pick the river pantheon, then I get a bonus for holy sites that are built on riverbeds. And then I built a lot of those, and then I accrued a lot of faith very quickly. And the pantheon I chose, I named it Lacus. I just like looked up what lake is in Latin, and I was like, okay, that one.
Sure.
And I forgot what the actual like religious bonus I took was, but it was also related to locations in water. Just trying to, I think it was related to coastal locations. Fisheries and stuff would give me more food. I think it was. I'm not sure. And then it's just like, well, that seems water themed. Interestingly, I don't know why it's interesting. Just transition. The religion that I'm up against. This is something weird that the game does. They just use the names of actual real-world religions, but they randomly generate their values, and then they assign them to random countries.
Okay.
So I'm up against Sikhism.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not actually Sikhism. Doesn't have the set of.
No, it's not actually Sikhism. It's just called that, and it's like a random European country that is the creator of that religion.
Why is it that this is
It's really weird.
why is it that
Weird thing.
that is unlocked from history, but like the nation isn't? Why is
know,
it that
right?
like the nation is an ahistorical being that pre-exists the conditions of its own founding and far outlasts them, but like faith is not that? This is like this is like a barroom criticism. This is not like I don't know where this thought goes into like a larger scale critique, but it is interesting to see what in the model of civilization is universal or like again ahistorical in the sense that it would last forever if left to its own devices and reflects our reality versus I don't know what are they, Scottish? Yeah, they're Sikhs. They're Scottish Sikhs.
Yeah, I think like it stems from the fact that Civilization is designed to be a Punch and Judy show.
Oh yeah.
Where everything is to the end of seeing which of these puppets is going to win this battle royale through history, and religion exists only insofar in this game it exists only as far as that's going to be a useful tool for one of the little puppets to grab and club the others to death with.
Right,
but if you take away the nation, I think that's the problem. Is they've never really figured out, at least as far as the design of Civ. There is no theme without the nation. There's no theme specifically without the leader characters in Civilization. And so I think you end up, I think they have hesitated to decouple. They have done this a little bit. Like great people show up agnostically for Civilizations.
Right.
But
Wonders.
in terms of leaders, that's foundational, right?
Right.
Like Catherine is always going to be Russia.
Right,
Russia
that is the thing. So yeah, what it belongs to a civilization? It's leaders. It's some sort of ability in Civ 6, right? It's like, hey, bonuses for
that goes back, for a number of games. at this
Yeah,
point.
totally.
And like a specific unit or building.
And then, right, it's a unit in a building normally, right? It's like, hey, and then also this place builds America builds film studios, and Japan has samurai. Is like the whatever, right?
Usually that's about as specific as it gets.
There's not like a tech line. There's no totally. It's super interesting. Go ahead,
I'll
Rob.
just tell you right now about Korea has rocket artillery at a shockingly early point in history, and it's really frustrating because I have ended up in a multi-generational religious conflict with Korea in my Civ game.
Amazing.
So it is now consumed 3 continents.
Wow. Have you been playing right now also? Are you just always playing Civ in the background? Is this a thing?
This game I abandoned a couple months ago because like I hit Korea is isolated behind a range of mountains bordered by jungles, but they're super technologically advanced and they hate my guts. Probably because I bum rushed them with my missionaries. But my religion is really cool. It's like, just, like
classic thing a missionary says. Listen, I know you've heard this
really
before.
Cool, though.
But my religion's really cool.
I'm the Maori, and my religion is based on beautiful things. Beautiful, specifically beautiful land. Like the more pristine, like tiles have aesthetic ratings in Civ 6, and the highest is breathtaking. And so if, like, for instance, my civilization started on a desert sea coast by, like, the Great Barrier Reef, and just inland, there was some other natural wonder, planted my first city there, everything was breathtaking. And so I decided my religion was going to be, like, based on worshiping the gods in the beautiful, like, natural wonders that they have created for us. But that also meant I had a bottomless thirst for beautiful, untouched wilderness. And so I began, like everyone else is like looking for, like, you know, river valleys, mountains they can mine, all this stuff. I'm basically like looking for Instagram shots for my civilization to spread out to. And but the cool thing is, like, the thing it inflicts on you as well is, as you develop in Civ 6, every expansion to your city consumes a tile. Like, you add districts. And so cities do grow and expand, but as they do that, they begin changing the aesthetic qualities of the surrounding terrain. So, like, if you like, an industrial city is not going to have breathtaking tiles.
There's no super bloom for you to lay on and ruin while you take your photos. Yeah.
Right. So the thing that I ran into was I built a real religious powerhouse early on because everywhere I went, it was just fucking gorgeous. So I had all these cities that were generating tons of faith. And then I started turning that into missionaries and just began bum rushing everyone. Meanwhile, Korea was basically turning into like a scientific utopia. And that was their primary focus. And I just started pouring in there with missionaries and began, like, converting their cities. They didn't like it, and so they launched a war. And but the problem is there are all these mountains plus this wall of jungles that they had to move through. I saw them coming from a mile away, and I just, like, blasted their invasion force, even though they had technological superiority. I just, like, blasted them off the map. But then I was a little heated, and I was like,
Do you have
well,
a
fuck
heated
you.
gamer moment?
Like, how dare you?
God.
Yeah. I was like, how dare you come at the Maori, this civilization of peace that is just
and beauty.
And beauty, yes. Like, we deserve the world. We're the only people who appreciate it. So I was like, I'm going to launch a counterattack against Korea. And it turns out that terrain issue affected me too. And so when I was like, here comes the counterattack, that fucking jungle and those mountain passes were really annoying. And then the Koreans showed up with their civilization-specific, like, Katyusha rockets in the Middle Ages and just started laying waste to me. And so at that point, I was like, well, what if, and by the way, I was like my civilization started deep in the Southern Hemisphere. It got to a point where, like, we had 3 back and forth fights over this patch of jungle and mountains. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to come at them via the Arctic Circle.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. And so I executed a planet-wide flanking maneuver and began coming over the top toward
love
them. But they saw me, they built their flank out and planted some cities and some forts down there. And so now we have a standoff that spans 2 continents, plus there's a sea blockade on the ocean to the left of our landmass.
Can you imagine getting the approval needed to build one of those defensive cities where you're like, listen, I know we're doing good here. I know there's beautiful territory all around us. We wanted to expand. There's probably better places. We got to go build closer to where it's cold. Why? Well, our enemies are going to attack us from there. Which enemies? The ones over there? Yeah, the ones over there. They're going to do what? How? You want us to build a city? You're telling me that they're going to commit to a plan that's so long that we will have time to build cities in order to defend from it. They're going to send people around the globe to hit us a generation from now after we've built cities. Yeah, that's what all right. Yeah, I guess so. Let's go start.
This is what
go get a hammer.
Well, if I were at war with Korea, I would simply go through the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
my poor settlers, that first generation that was sent there, like everything about my civilization is like fine, beautiful terrain. This Arctic base was landed on a fucking barren tundra coast.
I love
and
it.
just planted there. No resources nearby. A bunch of barbarians had to clear them out to create room to operate. And then I just began pouring all my faith into the city to build shit using faith and using gold to like basically astroturf Iserlohn Fortress into the Arctic Circle. And then use that as a point of departure, and it still didn't work. Like, so all that ended up happening now was that there's 2 trench lines, one basically made by nature, and one made across the Arctic tundra by these fortified cities. They're just hurling dudes at each other. It's great. I love it. We're both gonna lose this game.
Fucking game.
God.
Like their science victory completely off. Like everything they've got now is being poured into keeping the Maori legions at bay. But meanwhile, like faith, what's that for? That's just something I spend on troops.
God, miserable, truly miserable. Not miserable. Mina in the background moving around. Hi, Mina. Hi.
Having a nice time.
Can I talk about, speaking of faith, actually, okay. You know the game Receiver? The original Receiver. All right, so Receiver 1. So Receiver is made for the 7-day, is it made for the 7-day FPS jam, or is it made for the, it's made for the 7-day FPS jam, I know, right? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe longer than, it must have been longer than that, because I think about the Chris Remo song, the Chris Remo Receiver song must have been from 2012, 2013. So yeah, 2012. Original Receiver made from 2012. Receiver was known as that game where the guns are hard to use, I think, kind of socially. It was a first-person shooter with a kind of roguelike setup. The reason I couldn't remember which jam it was for is because I couldn't remember if it was for the 7-day FPS jam or the 7-day roguelike jam. It was for the FPS jam, but it had a proc gen world, and the very basic thing is you're in a kind of uncanny urban environment inside of like a high rise and maybe some construction-y areas, and you're looking for tapes. You're looking for like cassette tapes. And when you pick them up, it sounds weird. It's weird dialogue plays. It's someone saying like, "Are you prepared for the mind kill?" Or we've done the preparing for the mind kill. God, what is it? I'm now trying to remember lyrics from the Chris Remo. This is the time we have prepared for is, of course, the name of the Chris Remo song. Shout out to Chris Remo. I miss Idle Thumbs. I sure hope everyone there is happy. That sounded crueler than I meant it. That would not mean to have a bitter edge. I didn't mean that to sound like I was talking to an ex. I was like, I hope they're happy.
Wow.
I genuinely hope that everyone involved is happy. And it was a really interesting game because the gist of like, I'm going to explore an environment and find tapes. And then there were like some drones, like so a couple of floating drones, but a lot of like turret emplacements, automated turret emplacements would shoot you. Sounds like like, I'm going to learn how to make a game. And what I'm going to do is I'll make like a house, I'll make like a condominium. And inside there are some turrets and some tapes you pick up. Really undersells the original game's like affect, or a kind of affective, ability to just completely freak me the hell out. The two things that did really well. One is, as part of the FPS Jam, one of the goals was to complicate and make more material the process of firing a gun. And so you had to hit 1 billion buttons to use a gun in the video game Receiver. If you were using a very simple gun, like, and this is now true for Receiver 2, which I'm setting up to talk about. In Receiver, you have to hit a button to open the cylinder. You have to hit another button for each bullet you put into the cylinder. Then you have to line up the cylinder with your mouse wheel so that the bullet is like lined up nicely, and then you close the cylinder and you can kind of like wiggle the cylinder until it locks into place where it should. You in the original game had to make sure that like if you remember that there's a bullet in the chamber, you had to pull back the receiver to move the bullet into position so that you could fire it. There are all these sorts of things, and then it put you into like what in any other game would be a very simple combat maneuver, like let me peek into this room, see if there's an automated turret, and then shoot the battery out of the turret or shoot the camera off the turret or whatever. And all of the stuff I'm saying now is still true for Receiver 2, which just came out and is why I'm talking about the original Receiver. The second thing about Receiver is that it was terrifying. Every sound was brought to 11. Every time you pulled the trigger, it was scary. Every time something shot at you, you died. If it put a bullet in you, you were dead. The kind of like the framing of it that they talk about in Receiver 2 is if you were shot once, then and you have immediate help is available, you can live. If you get shot twice, you'll die even without immediate help. And after the mind kill, no help is available, or something like that, because those are the sorts of words that the game ends up using. I'm going to pull up the transcripts from the first game, just so you can understand what the fuck I'm talking about when I say that the writing is like this. Your crude world, this is just, I can't do this one. This is literally the one from the Chris Remo song, and immediately, actually, I'm going to read this one. Your crude world is not the true reality. Your physical body here is the shadow cast by your transcendent mind. We call this higher plane reality A, and your world, the world of shadows. Reality B. If you're receiving this message in a fictional context, you are at an even deeper level, one that we cannot reach, because your body is a shadow of your mind. When your mind dies, your body will vanish. In the normal order of your world, death is merely a transition in which your mind is set free. But for victims of the coming mind kill, there is only oblivion. And so there's all of this like stuff about the mind kill and mind tech and the clear tape and if you started recently receiving, you may wonder why the training tapes are so important. Over the last several decades, your media has been slowly corrupted to be used against you. By feeding your mind a constant stream of damaging ideas, your view of reality has been warped to fit a sinister agenda. How can one tape, listened to once, possibly have an impact on the face of a lifetime of accumulated deception? It can only have the smallest effect, but even that small effect can be built on. If you listen to that tape 100 times, you may notice a difference in how you feel. If you listen to the tape 1,000 times, you will be transformed. And if you listen to the tape 1,000,000 times, you will become more than human, an awake receiver. Listen to as many tapes as you can. Listen to them as often as you can. And the reason for all of this stuff, which is like laughable, weird world building, is that for the original Receiver, if you like do a search for Receiver lore game, you will find a post from the creator from Wolfire Games. Go to the blog.wolfire.com, who basically says, like, when I was making this game, I was really interested in UFO doomsday cults. I was really interested in the cults of the 90s, which I was obsessed with they left a big impression on me as a child. And I wanted to dig into the idea of thought reform. I wanted to dig into the idea of like jargon heavy, the sort of like the stuff that goes into trying to bring people in to organize, to, alternative organized religions. There's a specific claim that the creator makes that is so fucking fascinating to me. He says, as you play this game, you are exposed to a diluted form of these thought reform techniques with the goal of inducing a genuine religious experience. I was interested in the idea of trying to cause a religious experience for a few reasons. And you can see now why I connected to Civ. If we could do that in a game, then it would be proof that these techniques really do work, and it would allow people to reflect on their the meaning of religious experiences and media control in general. Judging from the comments I've received about Receiver's story, I think I've achieved mixed results on that goal, and so the jury is still out on whether the game works as a religious artifact. If you were one of the ones who heard and understood, you are a receiver. On a broader level, it seems like a lot of people found the story and ideas interesting, and it felt like it added to the atmosphere of the game, which is more than what I could have hoped for, especially for my first attempt at writing a complete game narrative and my first try at voice acting. This is a snapshot of a different time in video game, independent video game development. Because can I tell you what the quote I read for Receiver 2 is? That this isn't, the thing I'm about to say is not a bad thing. And when we get into talk about like one of the big differences with Receiver 2, I want to be clear that I'm not dismissing this as a line of creative potential, but I do think it's telling. In 22, the designer said he wanted to teach the basics of gun safety. Also, this is a game about suicide and depression now. So, like, content warning for those things as we talk about Receiver 2. But I think the thing that, like, strikes me so much about this is that in 2012, someone said, I want to make a game that has a diluted form of thought reform techniques in it to see if I can induce a genuine religious experience. And then said, you know what, I didn't do too good at that. This is not a designer who said, and then I did it. And if you didn't have a religious experience, then you weren't playing the game right or something. Right? This is someone who I think had a real like artistic impulse, pursued that artistic impulse, then did the mature, good artist thing of taking a step back, taking in the criticism, saying, it was a mixed result, but it was a fun experiment. It was the first time I've ever written anything as a narrative, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Receiver 2 is largely the same game on its face. It's still a game in which it's very scary to pull a trigger. It's still a game in which you die very quickly. It's still a game that's obsessed with the particulars of using a gun. There are immediately some discrepancies. The first is it seems to be level-based, not proc-gen. There's not a procedurally generated space every time. And immediately that means I'm less disoriented. Or if it is still procedurally generated, which I don't think it is, I've died a bunch and I'm still in that same space. Or I've been mostly in those same spaces. There's like progression in a different way now where you're moving through it, and every time you get a set number of tapes, you kind of advance into a new zone. So immediately there's less disorientation. You also you unlock more guns as you get more tapes, whereas in the original, you came into being, your goal was to search for tapes, and you had a different gun in your hand. You're like, what the fuck is this thing? Whereas in this game, because I'm with the same whatever cult detective model pistol that you start with for the first little bit, and then you move on to a different gun. Like, you stay with the gun that you have, and you become familiar with it, which is a different experience in a serious way than the kind of really interesting, disorienting feeling of, all right, what I've said before, my favorite feeling in a video game is anything that replicates the moment in Memento where Guy Pearce is running and he goes, all right, what's going on? I'm chasing this guy because he doesn't have a short-term memory. This is the premise of Memento. Apologies. I just realized I should set up what Memento is. The main character of Memento doesn't have a short-term memory. And so the way that the film is set up, you jump into scenes and you don't necessarily understand. The character does not know what was happening a moment before the scene started. So there's a sequence where he's chasing someone through a parking lot or like a trailer park. He's like, all right, what's going on? All right, I'm chasing this guy. Nope, he's chasing me. And he like turns around and goes the other way. That's my favorite feeling in video games. And the original Receiver did that so well. That quick, like, okay, what's going on here? Okay, I have to put all this together, and then I have to get my head around it, and then I need to execute on it in such a way that I get to live when these robot drones are so much more powerful than me. This game gets rid of a lot of that because it wants you, because this is a game in which I want to teach the basics of gun safety. And so, to do that, you have to sit with a gun, and you have to become very used to emptying out the chambers and making sure you hit the V button enough times. and loading each shell individually. And a new thing in this is if the hammer is pulled back and you hit the button, you hit tab to holster your gun, and if the hammer is pulled back and you just tap tab, you shoot yourself in the leg because you've holstered too quickly. You need to hold the tab button down to carefully holster your gun. And so that stuff is still in there. It still has that style of like jagged edges, aggressiveness towards the player that encourages you to be very careful. The way you run in this game is by tapping the W key, which is like a brilliant thing of like, this is not, holding down shift is not what running is like. Tapping the W key and sometimes doing it by mistake because you're just trying to edge towards something is much more like real movement where it's unpredictable. And so I'm not saying this game is bad or anything like that. I think it still like executes on some of those core ideas, but the idea that it's traded that sort of core unpredictability for something so much more structured has left me a little cold. There is the other thing, which is mixed in with the kind of propaganda cult tapes, the receiver tapes, are now things called echo threats. Sorry, that's wrong. Threat echoes. Threat echoes, and this is now where I'm going to pivot to talk about suicide and depression. Threat echoes are suicide notes. Threat echoes are recordings from it's still the same narrator, but reading the words of different characters, leaving suicide notes. And the moment that suicide note starts to happen, you have to, this is a mechanical spoiler, but it's also a mechanical spoiler that is core to the gameplay loop, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. But if you really don't want to know, you can jump ahead by a few minutes. You begin to lose control of your gun, and eventually it turns on you and kills you. You have a moment to throw together what you know to try to disarm the weapon you're holding. So you have a gun filled with bullets, and you have to quickly go, oh shit, how do I empty the bullets from this gun? Let me remember that there's one in the chamber. How do I get that one out? That's not a thing I do very often, maybe. And you have to do that before the suicide note ends and you kill yourself. If you do that successfully, you then get a follow-up tape, or it's not even it is a tape, but I don't think you pick it up. I think it's just in your inventory, if I'm remembering right. That is about the person's situation, what led them to want to kill themselves, and then a kind of an alternate outcome in which, you know, instead of gaining suicidal thoughts from persistent bullying and, you know, poor mental health and bad support structures around her, a character ends up finding someone who she can connect to and becoming, gaining a better relationship with herself and the world around her, so that when the bullying happened, it didn't cause such intense feelings of self-hatred. And the other thing that makes this a game that's set in 2020, or an indie game in 2020, is it's another game allegorizing about depression and suicide, which I am not opposed to. But as someone who has lived with depression and who struggles with suicidal ideation today, I never feel good. I have never played a game. There are small moments where I'm like, yeah, that hits me. But it's so rare that it almost always falls flat for me. There are the times that it hits me well is just when it's good fiction most of the time, and there happens to be a character who is actively struggling with depression, or a game that is engaged directly with narratives about mental health, about struggling, versus the sort of allegorical, do you get it? This is like da-da-da-da-da. That stuff always lands not only flat, but feels cheap is too weak of a word in some ways to me. It not exploitative, but not cheap, somewhere in the middle there, right? The reason I don't want to say exploitative is because I know that for a lot of folks, these are people who are themselves struggling with depression, struggling with suicidal ideation, who are making a game to reflect that. I don't want to say that this is neurotypical people who have decided to create stories about people who are suffering from depression or whatever, who are living with depression. I know for a fact that some of the people who make games about depression are just like, yeah, dog, it sucks in here. I got to make something. But it still ended up, it's frustrating to me the degree to which the field is filled with this particular model of independent game. And I don't. It's not frustrating. You know what? It's not frustrating that the field is filled. People should make what they want to make. What's frustrating is that there is not, that I haven't seen a lot that has taken that same interest in other themes and topics, even inside of the world of mental health, in such a way that I feel like there is a real dearth of other content that has the same sort of thematic weight that appears in other media forms, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I've been feeling that too recently, where I also have anxiety and depression, and I've engaged with it in fiction, and it's been therapeutic, but there is a point where you just feel like, yeah, you don't want to tell people to not make work that's personal, but I always want to see someone take the next extra step to move beyond what is already out there into spaces that are new, taking ideas that you've seen and see now very often in sort of the 2020 indie game space, and challenging themselves to take a step beyond that status quo.
Right.
And I am afraid, I would love to see examples of games that people feel like do that.
Totally.
I guess.
Yeah. Let me say my inbox, my DMs are open. As I said before,
Yeah, totally.
people can link me to shit that they think is interesting. I have no problem with someone being like, "Hey, this seems like something up your alley. Do you want to check this out?" Actually, just at me, because that way, if you're promoting something or if you want to like people to see a game that you think is cool, people will see what I see it, because that is how Twitter works now. Because Twitter is broken in this way. But it is so strange to me the way that this game specifically has changed from this thing to become more approachable in this particular way. Not just in terms of thematic content, but in terms of mechanics and in terms of having the wrapper to pitch itself in this way that is about, it's about something now. It's about good gun safety techniques and about depression and suicide. And maybe finally I'm becoming the old head I say I never want to become, but I do very much prefer, and this isn't about old headness, this is about where my attention is spent and what I see, right? Because I know that people are making, because I could go play, I for instance, I played Receiver 2 instead of playing VHS 1996 or 1998. What is the name of that horror game that just came out? Finally. God, I forget what it's called, but it just dropped like last week in a more finalized state than what it had been in before. And it's like VHS 1986 just came out. And I haven't played this game. Maybe I should have played that instead of playing Receiver 2. Do you know what I mean? Maybe all I've done is reveal my own biases towards, like, I opened up Steam and saw the Receiver 2 was out and went, oh shit, I'm going to buy that and play that instead of opening up Itch and like going game to game and playing stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's where my head is at here. As always, everything I say is provisional. But and also I'm not saying people shouldn't check out Receiver 2. I'm probably going to play more Receiver 2. I'm curious to learn more about the mind kill. I want to hear more about mind tech and the clear tape.
Wow.
I'm still sitting here reading the copy on this game, and I'm like, are they trying to bring the religious experience over the pole? As it were? Like, okay, so the direct approach didn't work.
Right.
This time, player gun safety game.
Totally. Maybe that's
guns.
the case.
Work
right?
the slide. Don't worry about it.
Totally.
Fill that bag.
I mean, this game also just has a lot more. This game has a lot more gun facts. If you want to learn the history of the revolver and like there's definitely just like early text in the game and say, listen, if you're gonna buy a gun, buy a revolver. You do not need a semi-automatic pistol. You don't need one. Like, you might think you're tactical. You don't need one. What you need is a revolver. Revolvers are safe. Revolvers are less prone to having a bullet break inside of the chamber, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, this is just a page of text about why revolvers are more consumer friendly than semi-automatic pistols, which have a particular use case for military and police officers that you don't have at home. And it's
6 months from now, though, you're going to be like, the well-ordered mind is a lot like a revolver. Modern society tells us that we need all these accoutrements. We need to have spring-loaded magazines feeding rounds into the chamber.
Maybe I had the moment, which was like, I always did like revolvers more. You know what? Maybe I don't want a gun, but if I was ever in a situation where I needed a gun, maybe I'd get a revolver. This is good stuff right here. This adds up to me. And of course, like all this shit, it's not stuff that I didn't already know because of being a gamer and being a fan of movies and anime that like I thought revolvers were cool. We had this discussion last year with what is it? Hunt? What's the second part of that game? Hunt Showdown.
Hunt Showdown.
That has like incredible revolvers. Like it just they animate really cool. It's my brain is broken from what the receiver said, from media control. My brain's been poisoned. I'm being set up for the mind kill.
Oh my god! It all comes full circle.
Anyway, I'm happy that Receiver 2 is out. I think it still does a lot of what Receiver 1 did so well, which is I've also been playing Valorant over the weekend, and Valorant is a game that compared to like
did you get a key?
I left my all right. Let me say the thing I'm going to say about Receiver and Valorant. Valorant is a game that takes its violence, or not its violence, but it takes its guns more seriously than like a Call of Duty in terms of like arcadey feel versus it's scary to be shot at. Things happen very quickly. Guns are very deadly. And Call of Duty moves pretty fast. So saying that comparison is like, that's something. Receiver makes that game look like a child's toy because of how scary it is to hear a gun go off. How did I get a key for Valorant? So, Kato, tell me everything you know about getting keys for Valorant.
You don't.
That's not true.
You watch Twitch, right?
Yeah, you watch Twitch.
Or now, at least.
Now the way to get a key for Valorant, which is Riot's, it's Riot's Counter-Strike.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I mean, there's so many.
You have to watch 2
there.
hours of Valorant play, and then keep watching. You need a minimum of 2 hours, and then you got to keep watching, and eventually you'll get a drop. You have to watch a drop-enabled Twitch channel,
right?
Playing Valorant, and then you'll get a code. And what had happened was my friend said they wanted to play Valorant. And I said, okay, cool. Let me look into getting a code. And then I said, I guess I'm going to watch a bunch of Valorant. Actually, what I said was, I'll just keep it on in the background. And then I watched a bunch of Valorant, which is prepping me for the mind kill. They had to absolutely indoctrinate me with the methods of Valorant. So by the time I played it, it's as if I had watched a tutorial composed for me by watching professional Valorant players who are in tournaments already. This game isn't out yet. But I left my computer on overnight. That didn't get it for me. The next day in the middle of the day, I think I watched for like 30 hours. But if you look at my Twitch stats, I watched a lot of Valorant last week. I'm glad I played over the weekend and last week because I bet in a month I'll never be able to play that game again. Or in a week, like it's extremely that game of like even Overwatch was that game for me within 2 months. So I imagine this game will be that in 2 weeks because it has both the Counter-Strike stuff of very intense first person shooting. Needing to know the map extremely well, hearing people say that I'm being shot from heaven, which again to me sounds like the mind kill, and not knowing what it means to be shot from heaven, and needing to be like, well, where's heaven at? Or having someone say, check the map, I'm gonna cover hookah. I open the map, and there's nothing on the map that says hookah. There's a place that says like, room 2 or whatever the fuck, but that's what we colloquially call hookah, and a different one we call baths, except that baths on the map, it does say baths. So baths is on the map, hookah is not on the map, but we decided to call it hookah instead of the name the thing is on the map and in the UI because question mark. Anyway, I've had a good time playing that game. It is all of that stuff, that Counter-Strike stuff, plus some character ability stuff. I did a lot of misusing character abilities and hurting my own team.
Oh no.
I was playing this dude named Phoenix, who is cool, and he has the ability to throw like a flashbang around a corner magically. Not an actual flashbang grenade, but like a ball of light. This whole thing's name's Phoenix. He's fire powers, obviously. And he can be like, he can do like a Naruto or he can do like the Tien. It's like his Yamcha. Not as good. You know how Yamcha in Dragon Ball Z can move a ball of energy around?
Right.
I'm only speaking to Kato here, I know. It's
Absolutely.
that, except then you move it around a corner and it goes like poof, and it blinds people, and then you roll around the corner with fake MP5s, because that's the game this is, and you light them up. Except that for me, when I try to do it, instead of going around the corner, I would hit the corner like a super ball, like throwing a ball or tennis ball against the wall, and then it would bounce back at us and blind my whole crew, and then they would run around the corner with fake MP5s and light us up. We went 2-2. We went 1 and 2, but one time we queued and the other team didn't pick characters, and so that match ended. I'm counting that as a win for me. They were shook. We went 2 and 2.
Oh, geez.
I don't know. It's weird. Like I'm curious to see if Valorant does anything, because right now I don't know that it's making waves in our corner of the world at all. But that also happened with Siege, right? I feel like Siege didn't necessarily come out to like a huge success, and then now is a very, very successful esport and just game that people like. So I don't know. I'm going to keep playing, but I think maybe more importantly, I actually like watching Valorant, whereas I don't like watching Overwatch. I like watching. Yeah.
I found that also when I was watching Overwatch or Valorant streams trying to get a key, is that I just found it easier to follow. And then I would watch my friends play like a little bit that night, and they had to talk through their strategies so much that I just knew what they were doing.
And you know what a good play looks like. Like it is really legible in a way that I'm sure if I watched Counter-Strike that would also be more legible, but like I got to play as Phoenix, a cool black British dude who's hot in this game. I don't get to do that in Counter-Strike. My guns can get bling or whatever, but that's not the same thing.
That's not the same thing.
Anyway.
People need the characters. I mean, I think this is why I latched onto Apex so much more than other Battle Royale games. It's just like, I need the characters. You gotta get me invested in some way. You want to show me I want to be that guy, you know?
Right.
And you gotta do it for me. Anyway, Kata was saying something.
Well, I was just gonna say is that basically because it plays as slowly as Counter-Strike does, where like, because you're dead so quickly, you have to be extra careful with every corner that you round and all that. Like, so it's just kind of easier to follow than Overwatch, where everyone's moving at top speed all the time, basically.
Right. I think that's totally right. It is a game where like the first thing that happened while I was like getting to start to play was someone in my crew. It was Joel Fowler, actually, formerly of Waypoint, was like, oh, you're going to want to turn your mouse speed way down. And I'm like, what do you mean down? Is that true? Is that what you do in this? I was like, well, if you have an 800 DPI, he was like, if you have an 800 DPI mouse, you're going to want to be at 0.8 on the sensitivity. I was like, 800 DPI? 800? I'm at 2500 all day. I got to click the whole screen instantly. I got to da-da-da-da. And he's like, no. This game, all the pros have their shit set to 800 DPI and to 0.6 on the in-game sensitivity. Me and Natalie are out here being like, I guess we got to go down to 0.2. Like, I guess we got to be truly. And I will say he was right. I was way better after doing that. And it is a different feeling, and it is what Gita just said too. That like it just makes it just way more watchable.
Yep.
But also the abilities are pretty clear to watch in terms of like, I see a wall got put into place and they last for longer than something like an Overwatch ability. Sometimes a really good Overwatch play will take a split second. And if you don't know how to make that, if you don't know as a viewer how to read that situation, you don't necessarily understand what you're seeing even. But when I saw a clip of my friend do a 1v1 where they're both sides teams are down to the last person, that's a 1v1, and they were on defense and they were defending a spot. In Valorant, as in Counter-Strike, there's a team that's supposed to plant a bomb and a team that's supposed to stop the other team from planting a bomb. my friend was defending a position. I had also hidden himself as the person went in and put the bomb in, and then ran into like an alcove to hide. And my friend dropped the walling that person into their alcove long enough for them to run to the bomb and start to defuse it. And to get through the wall, you have to shoot the wall. And what I didn't realize until I saw this clip was, if you shoot the wall, there's a moment the second the wall breaks where you're probably out of rounds. You're probably out of bullets. And that's the moment where the person on the other side of the wall goes, I gotcha, and drops you. And that's like a beautiful play. Like, it just played out really nicely in a way that was really exciting that I just don't get from watching something like Overwatch, where the abilities are near constant, where I have a hard time understanding what a good shot even looks like necessarily, that isn't just like a good headshot or whatever. So yeah, Valorant's out there now. Nice job. It's happening. I have one email we should read.
I'm excited for it.
You have emails, you can send them to gaming@vice.com. Hi team, just wanted to share my small experience with Edward James Olmos from a few years back. I had somehow gotten my crush to watch all of Battlestar Galactica that year, and coincidentally, Edward James Olmos was scheduled to speak at my college that spring. He spoke relatively genuinely about his cause, helping at-risk kids. Afterwards, the Battlestar Galactica dorks waited in line for a photo. My crush and I were towards the back of the line and waited patiently. It was our turn, and we stood on either side of him. He grabbed our heads with his two hands, smushed our heads to his, and said, "I love you guys." This took place in a college surrounded by farmland, 1.5 hours from a major airport in Michigan. It was weird, but he was nicer than you would expect in that situation. Love the show, Mike in Boston. And there's a photo here, which I'm going to try to share if I can, with you on the call. I'm not sending your picture to everyone on the internet. Don't worry. But there it is. Here's Edward James Olmos, who Mike calls EJO, which I don't know if EJO, if that's a thing. Do people call Edward James Olmos EJO?
What if I started an ELO cover band where we change all the songs to be about Edward James Olmos?
I love it. That sounds great to me. That sounds fantastic. Great. I'm just checking to see if there's another. I'm just going to read this one. This one comes in from Brian. Hold up. Did we all just forget that in Super Mario Run, when you defeat a very convincing Bowser in Castle 1-4, he turns into a Goomba before falling into lava? Is Bowser real? Brian, I don't know how to help you, bud.
Is Bowser real?
Is Bowser real? Do you not remember when we all played Super Mario Run?
I do not.
And you defeat a very convincing Bowser in 1-4? I'm sorry, Brian. I wish I could tell you. I really wish I could. Unfortunately.
I wish I knew if Bowser was real now.
I think we can say Bowser's spirit is real and walks among us. I think
it's like the spirit
metaphorically,
of
Bowser's very real.
I see. What is the spirit of Bowser's content? Like, what is it? How will I know when I am in the presence of the spirit of Bowser?
Well, when there's a second set of footprints.
It was Bowser?
It was Bowser.
Was he?
Bowser?
Wait.
There's only one set he was carrying you.
You're saying when there's a second set, so it's like he's secretly following me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's only one set he got bored for a little bit.
Okay.
And then he comes back.
And he goes back. Okay, I see. Oh my god.
You gotta watch out for the shape and gate length of the steps though, because if it's really short, then that's just
right.
That's the fake Bowser Goomba.
That's the fake, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Here's
the false idol.
Bowser, the false idol.
Do not worship the false idol Bowser.
What's the Bowser religion get you in Civilization 6?
Princesses.
Oh, okay. That's
just generally.
Lots of monarchs,
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that adds up. That adds up. Did you see the shit about the Mario movie the other week?
Oh, about how it was secretly radical or something?
Yeah. Did you not hear about this? The secret radical history of the Mario movie. They had to cut out they had to cut out scenes because the Koopa brothers or whatever were secretly too subversive, maybe?
Yeah.
They're the ones who helped overthrow Bowser. I have to find this. 1 second. I just did a Twitter search for Koopa overthrow. That's not going to give me what I want. God, what were they called?
Or Spike and something?
Yeah, Spike and Iggy. Obviously. Come on.
No.
Yeah, it's Spike and Iggy. It has to be Spike and Iggy, right? Spike and Iggy Koopa, right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Am I right?
You are. There they are, the human ones. That's the thing, is that they're human, so I didn't think it was those characters, and then of course,
well, they're human in a sense. We can't watch this 5-minute video, but there's a video called Exploring Super Mario Bros. 1993 Extended Rough Cut Part 3 Koopa the Party Poopa, in which the fans over at the SMB movie account on YouTube talk about why there are sequences in that movie that have been removed, in which Spike and Iggy the henchmen of King Koopa slowly turn on their boss after Mario and Luigi tell them that it's like, hey, you guys have kind of a shitty work situation, don't you? And they slowly become radicalized and then are secretly the causes of the entire back half where the whole world revolts against Koopa is all because of his workers rising up and doing a bad rap song in the nightclub sequence.
Well,
not sure that proves the case. It was cut due to radicalism, though.
Well, Nintendo, you never know. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Might be the radical politics were tied to a rap sequence in a nightclub, and
hell yeah.
one of those was a convenient justification, or
to be clear, it was not only. There's two other things here. One is there are other sequences that also got cut. That whole arc got cut, probably because it was mediocre at best. Two is apparently the actual directors did have a radical do you know anything about the two people who directed the Super Mario Brothers movie? They were a married couple that kind of, my understanding is, stumbled into it and had revolutionary leanings. And somehow
became a musician and the original drummer for Sonic Youth.
There you go.
All right.
See?
What?
Uh-huh.
Anyway, also, the other director was the co-creator of Max Headroom. So, the overlap, I think that the Super Mario Brothers 1993 film doesn't get the love it deserves. That's all I'm saying. On that note, we should probably wrap up. If you have questions, you can send them to gaming@vice.com.
Oh, wait, sorry, that was not okay. This paragraph that is not one of the directors.
No, the two directors, you were confused. You were confused maybe by the fact that one of the directors is the sister of a new wave artist. Was that what caught you? What caught you?
No. This is just the description. There's a paragraph here that I was reading that was about a different part. I think that's the person who was involved in making this rap.
Oh my God, that's worse. You could have done bad. That makes the fact that it's bad worse to me.
Yeah, Edson wrote the lyrics and beat. And the two actors pitched the rap to the director.
Gotcha. Also, apparently, this one director directed this incredible Elvis Costello Accidents Will Happen video. Anyway, we're going to wrap this podcast up before I just fall down a Wikipedia hole, which I'm doing as we speak. Thank you for joining us. If you have questions, you can send them to gaming@vice.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Where can people find you, Kato?
At @A_Kato_P.
Gita.
At XOXO Gossip Gita.
And Rob.
At Rob Zachney.
As always, you can follow everything we do, twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. Thank you to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. We'll be back at the end of the week. We will be able to talk about another tactics game that we haven't talked about yet then, and all things will fall into context, finally. Look forward to that. Until then, fuck capitalism, go home, peace.
So what happens if you try to scan things and skip ahead? That person that I read out loud, that is Spike's actor.
Oh,
Who was the one who
wild.
put together that rap and pitched it to the director.
Okay. And is also was the drummer of
The original drummer from Sonic Youth, yes.
Wild. What a career. God.
And it is not, of course, now the dump truck arrives and starts banging dumpsters as loud as humanly possible.
Yep.
So let me just give me
that's how
one
that
moment
works.
to just pause here and recollect myself while that happens.
Sounds good to me.
Kata, if you can just make a note of when this is all going down, because there's about to be several unpredictable booms in the background. I hate
Bring in
Mondays for
thunder.
this reason.
For
Because this
this
is also
reason.
the day the leaf blower guy shows up. And I don't know, like, genuinely, I don't understand. Like, do those things actually save much labor compared to a push broom? I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
They seem to
I
take
don't
way
think
longer.
they do either. They
Give me a
seem
push broom.
just to be like a high tech toy, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
like
like
drones.
really energy inefficient.
Yeah.
Like running those
that-
2-stroke motors. It's
Yeah.
absurd. But it's like, buddy, just give me push broom. I will clear that walkway in 5 minutes.
It'll be fine.
What are you doing to me here?
I believe that you would, Rob Zachney. If there's anyone that I would entrust with clearing my walkway, it's absolutely you.
I had lots of chores growing up.
Yeah.
Lots of loathsome chores
Oh,
that I
bet.
remain weirdly good at.
Yeah.
And one of them being, I don't know, you just get raised with so many bullshit suburban values.
Yeah,
And that's
true.
even setting aside the classism and like latent racism. But like the notion that, boy, you got there's grass growing in the cracks of your driveway. Man doesn't have a driveway that has grass growing in the cracks. You better clean that stuff out. Better clean that driveway. Hose it down. And so I'd be like, sure, this totally makes sense. Taking an hour out of a Saturday morning to like brush and like, let me go comb my driveway and then hose out these cracks so that it can be pristine for our Pontiac 6000 to park and like bleed oil all
to bleed
over.
oil. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was saying to leak oil all across it. Now that's a good looking
I need to have
driveway.
a great driveway for the car from 1986 that we inherited from my grandma and the Honda Civic. Like, you know?
Yeah.
I have like this inability to really I want to clean the floors, but I have been unable to because my dad cleans the floors in a really, really specific way that takes a really, really long time. So I haven't had the time or the specific tools that he requires to do it properly.
But
It's
you don't
been
have
so
to.
ingrained in me that that's the
Your dad's
only
floor
way
game
to
doesn't have
clean
to
the
be
floor.
yours. Okay, what is it? How like is it
You
truly
need pine
Baroque?
sol. You have to like move all the furniture. Like it's one of those things. You have to
So
move all
do
the
you-
furniture.
so you have to clean the
and get
floor.
underneath
What are you doing to me
everything,
here?
And then
My daddy's so
you
crazy.
use all the. No, it's just like the whole process of several hours of sweeping, vacuuming in the cracks, and then getting all the baseboards, and then like honestly,
Oh, that's
like,
pretty
I
deep
live.
cleaning.
Every
I don't need to
clean
do
is
that
a deep
every
clean.
time.
Yeah.
My dad does a deep clean
Exactly.
the whole house every Sunday. It's not just like regular cleaning the floors. It's like he moves all the furniture out and like gets on his
Wow.
hands and knees. Well, just
So
like
where-
moves them into the center of the room and then he has to
Right,
move them
right.
back. Yeah.
So I was told like I had to do like Sunday dusting, and
boy.
I hated that shit. Like dusting off picture frames and like every
Mhm.
surface. My parents are inveterate tchotchke collectors,
Oh,
and
boy.
so it was just this endless process of like, oh, I better open the curio
Oh,
cabinet, because for a while my
God.
parents had a curio cabinet,
Of
so I have to
course they
open the
did.
curio cabinet with all this like just abject trash in it, and like clean that shit, and like the whole thing was a con because once I moved out of the house, do you know how many of these chores regularly
Oh,
got done?
Of
after
course,
I left?
no. But that's not the thing, right? Like it's like I grew up there was a time when my dad owned like a hip hop clothing store, like a number of them in South Jersey. That was like growing up where I worked was Walker's Jean Warehouse. This is not a story I've told very often. And
That rocks.
It rocked. It was good. Now, yeah, that is not open anymore. Shout outs to my dad for employing me and many other people during that era, trying to sell lots of FUBU jeans. The world needed South Jersey needed FUBU. Like honestly,
South Jersey
South Pole
did need
needed.
FUBU, though.
Weirdly, so did Northwest
Jersey
Indiana.
Yeah, I bet. Sadly, I think the business prospects there were not as good as Atlantic City. Anyway, for me, it was doing like working there at a very young age and being told that like there's always something to do in the store. If you need to, dust racks, move racks around, button jeans, like pull jeans off the shelf, but make sure that they've been buttoned and then reshelve them. And that was on top of 3 times a day inventory. We did counts, which was literally anything that was over $5 in the store, which was most of the store, had to be counted 3 times a day. So it's like
that's fucking craziness.
This is 100%, like 100% what we did every day, 3 times a day, like morning, noon, and night.
Your
basically.
dad was just a god of loss prevention.
100%. The margins weren't there. Like, my dad is listening to this. I love my dad. My dad taking this risk inspired me to recently take the risk of going to focus on Friends at the Table full time. Like I wouldn't have done it without his like encouragement and model. Because the message here is not don't follow your dreams, because it turns out that eventually a larger business that has bigger capital will come in and shut down all local small businesses after the small businesses prove that there is an audience or a market for the thing in the location, which is what happened to Walker's Jean Warehouse. Is the national players showed up and they had real money. The point is, it was still very fun to do for those years, and he felt fulfilled during those years. And so for me, that was the model, was like, you're right. It was loss prevention king because you needed every pair of pants to sell. Otherwise the bills wouldn't get paid. One day I will write a story or write a collection of all of the weird characters who came in and out of the Atlantic City Mall to buy jeans, and also all of the people who worked there. I have a list. It was a good time, but it is also a very particular model of work ethic, showing up to a mall at 9:30 to count all the jeans.
See, I hear like there's always something to do, and I almost have a stroke because that shitty golf course I worked at, like the one time I got screamed at by the embittered pro who also ran the pro shop, because every country club has the pro, and oftentimes this character is someone who was like good enough to almost get into the PGA Tour, but like not anywhere near good enough to actually compete there. And so they end up teaching golf lessons rather than playing golf. And the guy was just kind of a bitter asshole. But there was a day where I was on the, you have to check people in as they make their tee times and go play the course. And you sit there in a shack. And you just be like, okay, you're so-and-so, you get the 1045, sure, have a great round. I was there and it was just pouring rain, just downpour, like nobody's going to play in this shit. And there's literally nothing to do. Like, I'm the shack guy, and there is nothing to do, so I just start reading a book. And then this was my mistake, as the rain let up, but it was still pretty heavy, I went out to the driving range and started just hammering some balls down the driving range. I had a mighty swing back then, and this was my mistake. The guy sees me do it and comes out and just chews me out. He's like, "I'm not paying you to shoot ball, like not taking you to take strokes on the driving range. There's it's like there's nothing to do," and that's when he gives me there's always something you can do.
Right.
Have you look around? Have you really done everything there is to do around this place? And the answer was yes. Like everything that remained was an outdoor task, right? Like what was saying to go clean the golf carts in the pouring rain? Like God's doing that, buddy. But yeah, it was just one of those things where it was like made to feel very small by just a guy who I think felt small a lot of times. And was just like looking to pass that on. But the whole ethos
pay it
drove
forward.
I had a small business tyrant manager like that one time when I was working. Like this man was directly responsible for me quitting. He had this like obsession with like nurturing the like mostly young female clientele there into like molding them into like taking over as the new management class at Bon Appetit, the restaurant company that we worked for. Yeah. Yeah, this was
different Bon Appetit.
This is different Bon Appetit. This is Bon Appetit, the restaurant company, not Bon Appetit, the really charming series of YouTube videos, and also food magazine. Well, I mean, that's how people think of it now, I guess.
I know. I'm not. Yeah, we're not. Yeah.
I was just surprising myself that's how I defined it.
Fair.
Ella is so loving the fact that I'm just sitting here with my length of my arm like on her body. She's happier than I've seen her in a long time. Anyway, there's this guy who was my direct manager. And the company had put him in this like fucked up gauntlet with another manager because like they both had complementary strengths and weaknesses. So they were trying to see which one would do a better job and that other one would get promoted to replace a guy that was like on the way to retire in a couple of years. It was like some real like cutthroat management style shit for the cafe in the basement of the Art Institute of Chicago.
Oh shit.
I was a cashier there. It was wild. And so eventually I got moved into back of house stuff because I was just like better. Like I knew how to use Adobe InDesign, basically. That was why. And
sometimes that's the edge you need.
Yeah, I mean, I got a very small raise that brought me above minimum wage at least. And I didn't have to wear the dumb uniform that they made me wear. But like this guy, I ended up having to share an office with one of those guys that was like the way more like mean, unnecessarily mean of the two. But he was like more organized than the nice manager that knew how to deal with everyone's emotions. So he absolutely was like necessary to the process because the other one would just forget shit all the time. But this guy had like a total like inflated sense of self, like really, really saw like, oh man, he was like a real wife guy also before we all knew what that was. But it was always like my everyday
back
he
when
had a
it was
story
woke.
about. Yeah, he had a story about how much he loved his wife, and it was sweet, but also like basically his only personality trait. Anyway, One day, I just remember, really everyone in this like in the store was just sick of his shit that day for whatever reason. He had like just been a real bitch ass the next day for no reason. He was like if you've got time to lean, you got time to clean kind of dude. Just like absolutely cruel for no reason. And he came in and he would like looked like he was feeling so fucking proud of himself and like looking like he felt really slick. And we comes closer and I realized that he does not know that he's wearing a pair of silk pajamas as a suit.
What?
What do you mean he didn't know?
He didn't.
How didn't he know? How didn't he know?
He loved how it felt on him. He was like, it's so silky. And we were like, it's because they are pajamas.
Isn't this a Seinfeld episode?
That's how it feels. That feels like, yeah.
Were they so fancy they looked like a suit?
They were like, they had like a thin pinstripe on them and they had a collar and like the hem of them were like cuffed. But they were like a very thin material.
Don't love it. Think that this is a bad idea. And
he just fucking didn't know.
Maybe
he had to be convinced.
Were they a gift? He must have been in the pajama department.
Gave me
the suit.
Oh man, the wife.
Maybe that's the through line. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see it.
She thought these pajamas will make him feel like a big man.
Here. Wear these, you dumb codependent piece of shit. Go to the office dressed like this. Oh, I love how you look in your suit, sweetie. Wear this.
Oh my god, that would be great. I like that scenario better than
So wait, the scenario you're suggesting is that she's sabotaging him by buying him nice things. There's my camera.
She knows he's off to battle in lower management Thunderdome.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Let me fix this.
Yeah. No source selected.
Yeah, my camera fell because of how precarious. I have it stretched to its. I moved stuff around and stretched it further this week, and in the process, had to put it on top of a cardboard box to give it the height it needs. But now it's across my desk.
See, this is just America in the age of COVID.
We're just truly all struggling like this.
It's fine.
Is like,
all right,
this is our reality. Truly.
What are you holding up? I thought you were demonstrating our reality with like, is that a manga?
No, that's
my
a
phone.
giant phone.
Oh, it's adorable.
It's my iPhone.
But the dumpster is gone now. The dump truck is gone. So, Kyle,
I
you
mean,
can
that was
pick
some
up
quality
from right here.
podcasting.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's
All right.
going somewhere. I'll figure it out.
So yeah, Gears Tactics is it's kind
It's, you can say GOT now. There goes my camera again. This is a good setup.
Oh,
This is good. Continue. I'll fix this again.
so I have. hang on.
Okay, we got it. I got it. I'm good.
This setup is terrible. This is why I haven't had a camera for months.
I'm Gita.
You gotta get some
I
fucking tape
show you this.
involved.
That was the box falling. That was not.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
This is just not going to work.
This was going to be a tight show, but I need to show you something.
Honestly, though, people will love this shit.
I'm not sure they will.
No, I actually don't
Everyone's
think that they
gonna relate
will.
to this.
I think there's a breaking point. If I'm being 100% honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Historically, there has been.
Ugh,
All right,
okay.
but hold on.
I'm trying. I was not talking.
My
or making
camera
jokes.
fell. That's not. Yeah.
No,
No.
this is on me, but there's too perfect an image. This is a socialist house, and Mina has joined the revolution.
What am I looking at?
Podcast and streaming.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Wrong channel. Oh. Perfect.
She's got her
Good.
little red
I love
rose.
She's got a rose. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
All right.
Good.
Okay, we're good.
So I am.
Not as good
Is
as
it
when.
just Austin?
I think so.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
What's
well,
just
at least
me?
it's just Austin.
It's,
I thought it was
good.
gonna be me.
Good
What's
for you.
just
I was
me?
worried. I didn't know where it was going.
What's up?
Screenshot that.
Yep.
Okay.
You can. Oh, okay.
This
I
is
heard
a fucking
you
struggle
talk.
pod.
Yeah.
A little bit, but you know what? I feel like it's very honest. We're being really vulnerable right now.
Technology
Who we are.
is great.
Yep.
Oh, hello,
It always
Ella.
Hello, hello, hello.
So cute.
Yeah. She wanted to sit in my lap. Oh, Ella wants to sit in my lap. Well, I hope
So we've
he's
been
okay.
teaching.
Yeah.
We've been teaching Mina to be quiet. 'Cause
How's
she's
it?
been-
How's it going?
It seems to have taken one day to get her to stop barking.
Huh.
That's unusual.
so
unless your dog's a
I
genius,
am very
which She
surprised.
might
We
be.
just hadn't created a command for it. Uh-oh.
Did we lose Gita?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Barely.
Hello, I'm on a
Gita,
phone.
You're barely here.
Yeah,
I'm
the
barely.
same
my
thing
connection
almost
is
happened.
fucky.
Hello.
I
I'm
might.
on a phone for a second.
Hey.
It was very weird because I heard you talking about losing me before I was lost on my side.
What?
Like I
Wild.
was still connected. And you were like, "Is it just us? Is Austin the only one frozen?" And I was like, "I'm right here. What are you talking about?"
You
I'm
got stuck
fine.
in a
Why
real
can't they hear
classic,
me?
like end of the movie freeze frame.
Perfect.
Mid speech,
Good.
it was really good. If I'm barely
Got it.
here, I might hang up and return onto the 5G. I might connect to the 5G. That's what I'm saying. I didn't realize I was not on the 5G.
Well, you're better now. Like,
Okay.
You just had a real slow
I
down.
would prefer not to hang up. So if it's fine
Yeah,
now,
let's just
then
keep
I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so we
Oh, I think I'm
We
gonna
gotta-
be back now too. 1 second. I'm gonna switch back.
He's gonna switch back. Yeah.
We've got a big canister of cheese treats.
Oh.
And we just tell her, when she barks now, we just say quiet. And then she doesn't bark twice. So like when she barks once, we give the command, and then she's quiet, and then we give her a treat, and she stops. She just remains silent.
She connected
and
the logic on that one really quickly.
really quickly, and then she started playing us a little bit.
Ah,
Where
I
she started
see.
doing like little little testing boofs, and like she got a lot of cheese that way.
Mm.
Yep.
But it drove home the lesson, right? Like she definitely figured out that like, hey, when I stop doing this thing, they give me cheese.
They prefer it if I don't do this thing. is where she's
Mhm.
ended up. She's kind of just always looking
Or-
out for the cheese at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is she preferring that? Did she figure out it's do it once and then stop? Get the cheese.
No, she's
Yeah.
like she hasn't. She's like she would get herself really worked up, where she would just
Okay.
be barking for like 20-30 minutes.
Oh, damn.
And increasingly like wound up. So that hasn't happened since we started doing this. So hopefully,
That's good.
hopefully we
That's
get
awesome.
lucky here, and she is just eminently teachable.
It's great.
Um,
It's great news. Austin, you'll enjoy this.
That
image.
expression,
Great,
of Ella
incredible,
is-
incredible cat. Love to see it.
She's just look at how happy she
Look
is
at
right
how
now.
she is so happy right now.
that entire face is scrunched.
Perfect, adorable.
Okay.
Austin,
Ideal
did you have to
cat.
restart your? Did you have to restart your recording? Or are you still?
No,
are you
no,
still
I just lost internet.
Okay.
I'm good.
So
I can pick it back up.
Yeah. Quiet. Good girl.
Okay.
No,
Wow,
it worked.
that's amazing. Okay, I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's finally my week for turnips.
Oh yeah. What are you at?
Today
I
was
looked up
80.
mine and then
Today was 84, but I also have an 84% of a large spike, according to the turnip profit.
4%. What is the turnip profit site again?
Turnip
Turnip.
profit.io.
Gotcha.
I wonder, you might need this slash index. I don't know if it.
Let's see. Turnip prices. 93 bells this morning. That's your maximum. 8% chance of this large spike. That's bigger than any of my other chances, honestly.
That's good. That's something.
Yeah. I think it's gonna happen. We'll see.
Hell yeah.
My large spike like ceiling is 642.
Damn.
So like it could be good. We could have a good week. I only bought one brick of turnips.
One brick.
Brick.
Yeah, that's what I call the whole.
The
I've
whole
said-
when you
the
fill your
whole
inventory
thing is a brick.
is a
Yeah,
brick.
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I only bought one. I only bought one. One
And
brick.
so yeah, one brick. Yeah. Uh-huh. And so but still, if I could provide a place for all of my friends to come through and flip for 600 plus, that would make me even happier
amazing.
in a real way than having 600. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to make the money. I want to share the money. That's
Right.
always been the dream.
Right. Because you could just go on. You could find somebody else with 600.
Yeah,
plus
I'll flip
every week.
600. Like I do it every
Exactly.
week. It's how I paid off all
It's
my
still
shit.
exciting to get it on your island because you're like, all right,
Yes.
everyone come through. Let's go.
Yeah, come through. I just finished my house. My house looks dope as shit right now.
Hell yeah.
So
Wait, you got upstairs and downstairs?
I got upstairs and downstairs paid off, son.
Damn.
We're good. And I got it
Holy
all.
shit.
It's a whole. I gave a walking tour yesterday.
Oh, good. Great.
It's like the haunted museum, but different.
What?
It's
Amazing.
Wild. I have
I
a
still-
whole carnival
I still need
Barker
to-
bit. It's yeah.
Finish paying off my third room. I haven't gone vertical yet. Next week, I think. After I flip these turnips.
Welcome back. Hello.
I'm Gita.
Hi. We need to wait a minute so I can get afternoon prices.
Of course.
Here we go. Let's
Ooh.
see. I'll plug this shit in.
What do we got? What do we
yes,
got?
yes, of course. Turnip prices. 93 to 133.
Oh shit!
Looking like it's going to be a good week.
Oh
Sounds
shit!
good.
Looking
Sounds
like
good.
it might be a good week
Oh,
over here.
no.
Oh, but wait,
no.
this is now saying I might get an early strike. Hmm. Tomorrow might be a big day. This is an interesting chart. I've never seen a chart like this. I'm going to make sure that I put the first
I've
one.
never
number
heard of
in.
an
No, I
early
did. That's
spike
all right.
pattern.
This is a weird looking spike pattern that it's suggesting for me.
Wait, what is it? Does it say large spike still?
It does still. Well, I mean, it says large spike 60%. It just
Nice.
jumped from 8% to 60%.
Yeah, that's a good shit.
That's that good shit.
Oh no, I went down 80.
It's going to follow one of those lines.
It is going to no. That's the range of possibility. Still
Okay,
is within the
okay.
green. I'll show you the actual like numbers in a
So like
second.
this is either the highest it will be, or there's going to be a huge spike on
Yeah.
Tuesday.
That is what it looks like, or it could be a smaller spike on Tuesday theoretically. Like these are ranges, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But here's like a taste of what these numbers look like, Rob.
It looks like waiting till Tuesday will still be worth it.
Oh no, yeah, I think no matter what Tuesday looks like it's going to be, my guaranteed minimum, if the spike is right, is 214. So, and my guaranteed minimum all week is 97. So that's what I bought at. It doesn't matter. We're good.
Yeah. At least you'll get your money back. It's fine. Man,
all
this
right.
is crazy. This is actual
Uh-huh.
business. I feel so
Actual
like I'm doing
business. Here
business
we
right
go.
now.
Yeah.
Numbers.
I think there's
It's
I think
numbers
this
and math.
conversation. I think the conversation around this stuff has gotten really interesting because I had a good conversation with Mo, one of the mods for Waypoint, who I think understandably feels a sense of not just FOMO, but like put off by the degree to which the conversation has become turnip prices, Nookazon, which I've dealt with. I dealt with some Nookazon stuff this weekend. I bought 2 wallpapers from people on Nookazon. Let me tell you, I had 2 really good experiences with the people who had the stuff I wanted, and then I had 2 people who were role playing way too hard and trying to like. They're like, "This is gonna be my fucking uncut gems. Like I have the cool wallpaper, and I'm gonna try to raise the price on." I'm like, "No, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna talk to the person over here. She has a near automata reference in her status. She has her name on Discord. I'm not gonna give you the full numbers because that'll mean people can find this person. But her name was the waifu on Discord, which was I didn't make that. I had to deal with the waifu to get the wallpapers I needed to complete my house. And it turned out that she was very nice and liked JRPGs. And we had talked about JRPGs for like 5 minutes. I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, Near Automata. Cool video games." And she was like, "Here, what do you want to pay me for this wallpaper?" And I was like, is there a wallpaper you want?" We did a swap, and that was really nice.
That's nice.
But that doesn't filter out, right? Those conversations that I had with her, and then I had another really good interaction with someone who was trying to trade some stuff. Those sort of like barter exchanges don't filter out. What filters out is, look at this turnip chart. What filters out is like, it's called Nookazon. It's
right.
It's made to look like Amazon. And I don't know if the people who run it have aspirations of running a digital marketplace per se, but they certainly want to play the game and be in that mode. And I do think that I've seen like a backlash to that element of Animal Crossing's online culture, and I get where it comes from. But it's also weird because it doesn't map to the way I play or to the people who I know who are engaging are actually playing, or like there's a degree of role play to like, "Oh, I'm going to get these I can't wait to get these turnip numbers." And that's like, yeah, we're all putting on a hat here. But really what I'm excited about still is like decorating my house in a dope way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
This is
It's
just the
interesting.
means to that end.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, I understand why the sort of cutesy wootsiness of Animal Crossing turns people off, and the way that the fandom leans into that sort of cutesy wootsiness.
It's not even the stuff that I'm seeing isn't the cute. The people I'm seeing are mad that there isn't more cutesy wootsiness, and are actually mad about or not mad, are put off by. Mad is way too strong. I'll take that back. Are put off by the sort of like breakneck pace people are playing through the game, optimization. What they want is something. What they feel is like, "Oh, I came here for something chill," but everyone else is like so obsessed with turnip prices. And I get that you feel that way because we do a podcast where every week we joke about turnip prices, but that's because my masterpiece house wasn't done yet and I couldn't talk about all the great decorating I did. Or it's really because it feels like a better bit to talk about that stuff than it does to talk about like, how excited I am to have a little part of my town that's made to look like a little park, that stuff is it's tough
I'm making a little kids fair area, like a little
nice.
fairground.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to put a bunch of stalls in there. I have to get a bunch of different items to put in the stalls. I'm still figuring it out, but I put one of the stalls down and I was like, okay, I know exactly what this
I can
is
see
now.
it. Yes, totally.
Yeah.
That feeling is
I love that
fantastic.
moment. Yeah.
That feeling is fantastic. So yeah, I just that's all. Those are thoughts bouncing around my head. I had another point, but I've lost it. In any case, we're back.
That explains things.
Yeah, right. I also started getting a lot of crashes on that evening on Friday evening when I was playing Civ 6 in The Sims. So like, all 3 of the things that were fucking with my computer, making it crash, had to do with using the video card.
Interesting.
So interesting. And then, yeah, it just stopped like actually turning on Saturday, which was the coolest. I loved that. And then Jason biked to the Vice office and got my laptop for me.
What? Holy
He's
shit.
so nice.
He's
so
also
nice.
desperate for justifiable reasons to go cycling.
To go,
Yeah.
fair.
I mean,
Fair.
that
Yeah,
is
honestly,
fair.
honestly.
Anybody want me to go?
Just
I
wanna
might
check
be going
in.
out. Yeah.
I was gonna make him cookies, and then I went for a long walk and got tired.
It's fair.
You know,
Doesn't the next long walk you take intersect with one of his cycling paths?
then I'll just leave cookies
do
in
a
location for him.
exactly.
He
Do a
can-
dead drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll dead
uh-huh.
drop him some cookies.
Yeah.
He can
That's all.
geocache some cookies.
1 second.
If this computer gives me any trouble at all,
That would be
I will kill
Yeah.
again. I don't know what to tell you. It's over.
I think you should be fine. Those like standard issue laptops are pretty.
Yeah,
Alright.
they're just
yeah.
they're
Yeah.
regular.
You have the local recording stuff all set up and good to go.
Man, I'm fucking recording on GarageBand. It's fine. It
Okay.
works.
All right.
It works.
All right. Can we time .is?
Oh my god, we so can. Open it, please.
It is lookalike day.
Actually typed
It's-
time.ish.
Is it look-alike day or is it 420, Austin?
It's apparently
that's both.
lookalike day. It is 420, but
Excuse me?
time.is tells me it's lookalike day.
I'm like crying, man.
I like the overlap. Honestly, I'm happy with the overlap.
Look-alike day? What do you do on that day? What is the purpose of that
You dress
day?
up like your
Ella.
favorite celebrity.
I see.
Says republicworld.com
Republic World?
and has republicworld.com, classic news source.
Wow.
It has this great lookalike of Jimmy Fallon and a guy. I don't know who this other guy
A
is.
guy that looks like Jimmy Fallon? Or wait, another.
Yeah. I don't think
man.
Jimmy Fallon is doing a lookalike.
Wow.
This is Chris
Well,
Anderson. I don't know who that is.
I'm sorry to that man. Ella wants to see
Uh-huh.
him. She's
Yeah.
scared of the laptop. Okay. There we go.
I think he's a local news guy. He's a New England news guy.
He looks
Rob,
like
you
a
should know
news
this
guy.
guy. He's a Solve It 7 investigator at 7 News.
Are you sure the thing is that they're just both white? Like I think that might just be it. They're white and from New England. It's
Is
pretty
Jimmy
weird,
Fallon
but
from New England? Where's Jimmy Fallon
I
from?
feel like he is.
Seth
I could
Meyers
be
is
wrong,
from New
though.
England, right?
Say that again, Rob?
Seth Meyers.
Seth Meyers is from New England.
Oh, I
Yeah.
I
I don't know
really
where-
feel it on Seth Meyers. I
don't
feel like
feel
Jimmy Fallon
Jimmy
has
Fallon
big
is-
Los Angeles energy.
Just
Yeah.
the name Seth Meyers.
No.
Bay
He's
Ridge.
from Brooklyn. His father was in doo-wop groups, apparently.
Man, I hate this dude.
Fallon has described his childhood as idyllic,
Mm-hmm.
while his parents have
Of
been
course it
described
was.
as overprotective.
Of
Uh-huh.
course it was. Like, imagine how secure you had to feel to be by far the shittiest cast member on SNL. Just
Uh-huh.
routinely fucking up sketches on live TV.
Mhm.
And being like, it's cute. People will love it.
People
Well,
love
not
it.
even that, but like imagine the level of confidence you have to have and like the absolute lack of self-awareness to do musical comedy is your thing.
Oh God, I feel like that could be a great deal of enthusiasm overcoming your lack of self confidence. That's in the musical theater. The musical theater folks I know are people who struggled with self confidence and found a solution by putting on tights and learning how to sing better and finding
Well,
a
yeah,
vector.
It's like
you know?
the cosplay exercise of like when you go to an anime convention and you're a teenager and you're cosplaying, what you're doing is trying on being sexy just for a weekend.
Right.
You want to figure it out, you know? Just want to see what it's like.
Yes. No, I went to those anime conventions.
Yep.
I didn't like it. I was like, no more of this feeling sexy shit. I'm done with this. Don't try to approach me.
I learned a lot about my own sexuality in terms of what I disliked seeing at anime conventions.
Yeah, fair.
The
fair.
kinds of behaviors where I was like, that woman is beautiful, but she is so loud.
Don't want that right now.
No, I need a lower volume.
And that woman was my girlfriend. God. All right.
This is
we should
giddy
clap.
energy I was talking about.
Uh-huh.
It's fucking here, man.
Mm.
Never doubt me again. Okay,
Let's do top of the minute. It's a lot of time. I gave us too much time. It's okay. All right. Kato, is this number 308?
Yeah. Random
Okay.
money.
Got that right.
Got that.
It was off on my notes, but
Money.
that made me realize it was probably like wrong as I fixed it. It's fine. It's fine. All right.